options that have been laid out. We're going to go over that in some great detail shortly. The second big decision is what kind of leadership do you want for the congregation? And then the third, and perhaps in some ways the biggest one, will be determination about the building and how the building gets used and cared for and all those kinds of things. Dan Johnson, who's our district superintendent, will be around for that meeting because he has a lot of expertise around all of those kinds of issues. And then after all this is done, and after we've done our voting, and I'm going to explain that in great detail, after we've done our voting, after we've gone through the whole thing, then we're going to sit down in September, early September, and do some kind of a church conference is what's going to happen. So, are we ready for music? Howard was, yes. We'll do music before the devotion. I think music sort of sets the tone for a lot of things. Do you need a microphone? I can be the mic stand.
You can be the mic stand.
I can be the mic stand.
You are a good person.
Well, I want to help.
To breathe on it. Okay. Okay. I wrote this song. I'm fond of saying that I wrote this song for Walker Church, even though I wrote it years before I heard of Walker Church. So now I'm saying I wrote this song for Walker Church in this situation right now. Shine on everybody's moon, up everybody's sky, down everybody's song. Shine on everybody's dreams, no matter where they fly. He doesn't know the song. Anybody know the song? Dry up everybody's tears, no one else can, and somebody ought to. Kind of work on keeping things together till we figure what to do. Everybody's got a lot of thinking to do these days. There's just so many hours in a day. Everybody's got a lot of working to do these days, and a lot of people standing in the way. And Moon, you know, I just can't take it, so here I'm scratching out one more lunatic tune. 'Cause time and things belong to no one, but it's everybody's moon. So shine on everybody's moon, up everybody's sky, down everybody's heart. Shine on everybody's dreams, no matter where they fly. Watch over what they start. Dry up everybody's tears, you know no one else can, and somebody ought to. Kind of work on keeping things together till we figure what to do. Nobody gets quite enough feedback just recently, and I'm not giving nor expecting help. No one can seem to get together to work it out, so you see I'm speaking only for myself. So hard to get on the right wavelength, but I will find a way to reach my neighbor soon. Not sure how much we have in common, but it's everybody's moon. So shine on everybody's moon, up everybody's sky, down everybody's heart. Shine on everybody's dreams. No matter where they fly, watch over what they start. Dry up everybody's tears. You know, no one else can, and somebody ought to. Kind of work on keeping things together till we figure what to do. And shine on everybody's moon.
Wow. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Is there a stand for this? Because I need to be able to use my hands. I'm one of these people that has a hard time talking without using my hands. Well, let's just, all I need is a stand.
Yeah, you can just use this, and then we can pass that around.
Pass that around. I'm going to let somebody turn it off so I don't have to deal with it. I'm one of those, I'm not technically challenged, but a little bit, so. Can you hear me now? This one's not on. So that one's not turned on yet. All right, we'll wait a second. Howard, thank you. You know, one of the things that is so wonderful about coming in and sort of being part of your community for what, 6 months now? I think I've been here once a month. Is the musical talent in this congregation is absolutely spectacular, and you know, music ministers to us in such an important way. It just touches our heart and our soul, and that really touched me today. I got, as they used to say, verklempt. It was really beautiful. I have I'm a great fan of Christina Rossetti. She is an English poet, and she had quite an interesting life. I'm not going to get into that, but she had a very interesting life, let's just say that much. And this is one that she wrote on seasons. And I don't know about you, but you know, in Minnesota, we've got 4 of those. And we've been feeling a blast of heat, and then all of a sudden, today, thank the Lord, we got in some drier air, and it wasn't so oppressive. I grew up in Duluth, as many of you may know, and my former wife had a wonderful thing about the 4 seasons in Duluth. She said, well, you have summer, and you have fall, and you have winter, and you have thaw. This is about the seasons. In the springtime, when the leaves are young, clear dewdrops gleam like jewels hung. On boughs the fair birds roost among. When summer comes with sweet unrest, birds weary of their mother's breast and look ahead and leave the nest. In autumn, ere the waters freeze, the swallows fly across the seas. If we could fly away with these. In winter, when the birds are gone, the sun himself looks starved and wan, and starved the snow he shines upon. We are going through seasons. Seasons of the year and seasons in the life of this congregation. What was the year that the congregation was founded? Does anybody know? 1898? 1898. So it's well over about 125 years or so. And their life cycles in the seasons and their life cycles in churches. And we're at a time right now where we are trying to see where we fit into that, and do we move forward? Do we rebirth? You know, I don't know. And you all are going to make that decision. You and anybody else. How many do we have online, by the way?
We have 9.
9 people online. Okay, so that's actually very helpful. Welcome, people online. Good to have you there. Thanks for participating in this.
We also have the 1886 was the founding year.
Oh, 1886. So it goes back even longer. Thank you. See, we got somebody online who actually knows that and sent that in to us. Thank you for keeping us. Now there's a sheet you have that is the let's see. It is the
It's behind you, David, on the stage. On the stage.
On the floor.
On the floor behind you.
That's why I couldn't find it. It was behind me. So this is the covenant that you all wrote up and put together. You gave all sorts of ideas. They're all recorded there, and I crafted them into a statement, our covenant that we will begin every meeting with. And this is, a covenant is our promises that we make to each other. So you have copies at your desk, and I want us all to read this. I don't have extra copies. They're on the table. Well, wait a minute. I'm sorry. There are 2 copies here. Wait, hold it. I apologize. And this, of course, has been shared and has been sent out, and you've seen it before. So this isn't a big surprise. So let's start and say it together. As the Walker Faith Community, we fearlessly promise to include all opinions, and we affirm active listening. It is okay to disagree, but not interrupt. We encourage speaking for yourself, awareness of others, and the vulnerability that entails. With active listening, we will strive for clarity, love, and kindness. The Walker Faith Community is open to change as we work together toward the next chapter in our shared journey. That's a really good covenant. It's, we've come together to decide to proceed in this way. Are there going to be disagreements? Yeah. Are there different perspectives? Yeah. That's all okay. Nothing wrong with that. The idea is, though, that we're going to work together toward a common goal. Even though there may be a bump or 2 in the road. That sometimes happens. So, what I'm going to share now is these are the options that we have. Can I have some help to distribute these? These are the options. And I think it's going to be shared online, too, if I'm not mistaken. These are the options.
It was shared online.
Pardon?
It was shared online.
Yes.
Check server, check.
So let me get copies. People can share, people can use. These are yours to keep. I'm gonna go through them, and then we're gonna read. I think we have enough, probably. Thanks to Casey, we got some extras printed out, so that was good. You need some here? Okay, sorry, I didn't. One here? She's handing what you've got one. Who doesn't have one yet? Anybody? Oh, you guys, all right. Here you go. You can share, you can keep your own, whatever you want. Here you go. Now I'm going to read through these. I'm going to read through these. And then you are going to turn to your table mates. We want people to sit around the table, and you're going to talk about them. Somebody at your table needs to be a recorder. That's why we've got those pens out. Somebody needs to write down anything that is particularly important. We're going to spend about 15 minutes doing table talk. If you're done well before that, we'll come back together, and then we'll have a report from each of them. Table 1, Table 2, Table 3, Table 4, Table 5. We'll want, and you, sir, in the corner, you can come join one of these tables. These are nice people. They won't chew on you too much. Okay. There's nobody's at that table. We could put somebody at that table too if you want. Whatever. So I'm going to go over these, and if you have questions while I'm reading, just raise a hand and I'll answer those. Continue as a chartered United Methodist Church. That's the status quo, basically. Walker Church is currently a chartered United Methodist Church, so this option is the default until a decision is made to become otherwise. Chartered churches can own their own buildings, receive appointed United Methodist clergy. Walker continues to be responsible for paying apportionments. That's the amount that every year gets set aside for the mission work of the church and support of the bishop and those sorts of things. So be responsible for paying apportionments, participating in the annual conference, which is the annual meeting of the Minnesota Annual Conference, and aligning with United Methodist polity and other requirements for churches. Thankfully, our conference has decided that they're open to all people. And I want to say, as an LGBTQ plus elder not only as in terms of age, but as a United Methodist elder, that's the title, I really appreciate the leadership that this congregation has shown in that area. Thank you. That is something really, really meaningful. It's very meaningful to me. So that's number one. Is that all self-explanatory? I would think it would be relatively so. So, 2, become a fellowship. A fellowship status is still United Methodist and would maintain the 501c3 status. That's the tax status, so that any contribution is tax deductible, that sort of thing. Fellowships are not assessed apportionments, but voluntarily share in connectional giving, and they do not have the same leadership structure of the United Methodist Church, such as having finance, trustees, staff, parish relations committee, etc. Fellowships typically relinquish building ownership because they are no longer a charter church subject to the trust clause. Hands is up. Yes?
So if we become a fellowship, we cannot then sell the building and keep the profit?
Correct. That's exactly correct, yes.
Okay.
And again, we will have a really detailed discussion on that when we do the building piece, and those questions are best answered by somebody even smarter than me. Yes?
Can you just repeat any comments for the online people?
Well, if you have, yes, I think the best thing, if you have a question, come on up and speak in the microphone. Thank you very much.
The mics are set up so hopefully people online can hear as well as you can hear in the room, and they'll let me know if you can't. So you should be able to just stay seated, and it should be fine.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, and this is Andy, by the way, who has volunteered to come and help us out today. Andy, thank you so much. We appreciate that. There was another question over here in the back. I'll go back first. Yes?
So, along with simply not owning, claiming ownership, there's the issue of maintaining occupancy here. How would we be able to utilize this then? What would be the format? And then, of course, there's always the maintenance and
Yep.
operating expenses.
Yes.
So, obviously, there'll be a breakdown somewhere? I mean, to me, it's just confusing.
We'll know when you make the decision about what you want to do. If you want to stay as United Methodist Church, things stay the same. If you want to become a fellowship, then you probably would relinquish the building. It is owned by the charter, the clause, it is owned by the United Methodist Church. However, the congregation can worship here, can still be a tenant, can still do all that kind of stuff. We'll learn more about that when we that's the final piece we're going to be doing. But the fellowship means that we're just going to let go of a lot of the existing things right now. And there are a number of fellowships, United Methodist fellowships in Minnesota. I think when I chatted with Dan about this, I think there's like 3 or 4 of them, maybe 5, and you're still United Methodist. You still can have somebody who is assigned, who is United Methodist clergy, but you have a lot of the other responsibilities taken away, and you would participate in helping to maintain the building, but that would probably be through rent. Would be my understanding. Yes.
Do fellowships have pastors?
Yes, they do. Yeah, fellowships do have pastors. They don't have to, but usually they do. And that's going to be the, today we're dealing with the status of the, I'll be right with you in a second, sir. We're dealing with the status of this congregation, and then we'll be talking about kind of leadership you think you want, and then we're going to talk about how the building is dealt with. Yes, you had a question.
Yes, Reverend Wheeler, you mentioned pastor. Can you clarify or elaborate on that? About what kind of pastoral leadership would you have under fellowship?
You could have an ordained United Methodist pastor. You could have somebody who is a certified lay speaker. You could be led by members of the congregation. That's going to be the decision that we'll be talking about during our next session after this one. So yeah, no, that's fine. All these questions are really good, and please keep them coming. Yes.
If we became a fellowship and then were a tenant in this building, would we then be able to not maintain, like have someone else maintain this building?
If you were to become tenants, would
The United Methodist, or would the United Methodist Church then provide janitorial staff or whatever?
there would be, yes, there would have to be some sort of structure in place for all that to happen. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yes, good question. Thank you.
Currently, is there a structure in place? I'm guessing not.
Well,
What was the question?
the question was, is there, I'll repeat it so people hear it, is there currently a structure in place? So, I'm an outside observer, but what I have seen is you have a group called the One Board, which has brought the various leadership groups together, and they are the current structure. But listen, folks, you've been through an awful lot. I mean, I know both pastors who died. They were friends of mine, people I knew. And I didn't know Katie, but my sister was one of her colleagues at Christ United Methodist Church in Rochester, and you know, her situation and leaving, that's a lot of grief, frankly. And so I don't think things have been really sort of clear or straightforward, and so that's why we're going through this process, so that we can begin to clarify where we're going and where we're headed. Another question, yes?
So I'd just like to say what you just said brings up a concern that I already have that was also mentioned this past Sunday. And that is the kind of speed at which we're doing this process, where what we originally understood was going to start with our Faithful Path process in the beginning of this year, or maybe a little bit before that, was going to be a much longer process.
Right.
And we're doing it in a super condensed version. And there,
Yeah, it's less than 2 months, yeah.
there's a lot of pieces here.
Mhm.
You mentioned something about talking about the building another week. However, we are doing a, first run vote, ranked vote on these here today, I understand. However, if there's not really a full understanding of a lot of the details that we're actually that are included in some of what we're voting on, I have a very strong concern about not having all the information.
Okay,
Today.
that's one of the reasons why I'm answering questions now, and then you're going to get together as your table, and you're going to raise those issues, and you're going to write those things down, and then you're going to share it with the whole group. And this process has been delayed a long time. The One Board felt it was time to move forward because we just can't continue to do nothing, and it's been problematic. It's why they have contracted and hired me as a pastor, as somebody who's done consulting, to help move this process along. And everybody gets to participate in this whole process. So I'm going to answer one more question, and then I'm going to keep working on this because we've got to get through it.
Excuse me, my question was the speed at which.
I understand.
And so that was the point of the question.
process by the one board, and your leadership has decided they wanted to do this, and so that's in fact what's happening. Are we gonna, we haven't made a final decision until we have a final meeting sometime in September. From the beginning to the end, it'll be a fairly long time, and we've been very transparent. You know, you gotta be transparent, you have to have things before people. Now, I'm gonna answer one more question, and I need to move on because we're starting to move into places where you're not gonna have time to do your table talk. Yes?
Mine's an easy one. If we move to the fellowship status and become renters, do the janitorial duties and everything else get shared but along with the other?
All the way around, yes, it would be shared all the way around.
Thank you.
Okay, let me go to the discontinued piece, because this I don't think is gonna take a long time, but we can try it. Walker Church could choose to cease to exist. This could be an immediate decision or a longer-term decision. We will close in Christmas, December 2025, for instance, just as an idea. This would entail letting go of incorporation status with the state and any identity with the United Methodist denomination. The building and assets would be by default be returned to the Minnesota Annual Conference as per the Book of Discipline Trust Clause and reallocated for future urban ministry in Minneapolis. I mean, you guys have got some incredible ministry in the community, and if you decide that you just want to call it quits and stop, then it would be still dedicated to that kind of ministry. Disaffiliate. This is the fourth one, and in some ways the most complicated. Walker Church would leave the United Methodist denomination and continue it as its own independent entity or an affiliate of another denomination. There are several financial, legal, and logistical implications of this option. As the Book of Discipline describes, the Walker Church would need to complete a congregational study, pay calculated pension liability, remit 2 years of apportionments to the Minnesota Conference, and approve the decision by 2/3 majority of an all-church conference. This is consistent with any church that seeks disaffiliation. 3 congregations in the conference, that's Minnesota Annual Conference, have left just this year because they could not accept our support of the LGBTQ plus people. Walker Church would need to reincorporate it as a new nonprofit entity and could keep their building if disaffiliation requirements are met. 4, stay as the United Methodist Church, become a fellowship. That's where most of the questions were, I noticed. Discontinue and disaffiliate. Yes?
So I'm wondering about the pension liability. I know we have those liabilities. Is that the only one of the 4 options at which we would be required to pay the pension liability?
We would pay, I believe so, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the others are...
The pension liability, I'm one of those collecting some of the pension, and so it's shared across the conference. I can't tell you dollars or anything like that. That would be a question that Dan could answer when he's here. Yes, one more question.
What if we didn't have the money
What if you didn't have the money?
to meet that requirement? Yeah.
Well, then you wouldn't be able to disaffiliate.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, like I said, this is the most complicated one of all of them in some ways. This disaffiliation, it's got quite a bit going on. So what I want you to do, we're at about 20 minutes to 8. I would like you to take 15 minutes. If you're done before that, that's fine. And if everybody's done before that, but I want you to turn in on the table you're at. You've got a question back here, yes?
You know, we need to sound the time, but what brought us to this cornerstone where this had, was it money? Is it church relationship? Is it support? I mean, for the fourth option. We're talking about
I will answer that after we have our talk. I've got another piece to hand out. I hope you'll join one of the tables. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, that's
but I'm just
Oh.
Okay.
It's interesting how this happens. But here are some work areas that you have. Right, those you may have to share, I apologize. But you know, and you can keep these, and these documents can be emailed to you, by the way. So you can get them by email. And you can share them with people who haven't been here. So these are areas we need work. Imagine that. I think I handed too many out to you guys, and I don't have enough for these people here. Can I take one or two of those? If you can share, I would really appreciate it. You've got enough here? So let me quick, anybody else need one? Again, these can all be emailed to you. So this is information. Now, these are 3 areas that need to be improved. Invitation, inviting people to come to be part of the congregation. That's the biggest, number one. Number 2 is finance. They're actually the same. So people are concerned about finances. People are concerned about inviting people to the church. People are concerned about having good leadership and staff. People are concerned about communication, conflict. This is a conflicted congregation to some degree. And you know how you get rid of conflict? You start talking to each other. And you talk to each other not in little groups. You talk to each other together. And we have ways of doing that. There is some change in verse stuff that came up in that. Anyway, those are some insightful comments that I would like you to take a peek at. Now, we're not going to, I'm just handing this out because this is my thought was, we didn't need to spend a lot of time talking about it, but we needed to do a little action here. So, does Walker meet your spiritual needs? No? The online people are getting their copy of it? Good. And all this is going to be available to you online too, if you want, or if you want, ask for an email or whatever. Here we go. There's some here. Does Walker meet your spiritual needs? Here you go. Let me quick read this through. Number 1, again, is community. Walker meets people's need to be part of a group, a community, to care for each other. Your spiritual needs are being met through worship and music. I mean, that's the biggest. And there's some sort of insightful comments. The one that struck me is, does it meet your spiritual needs? Somebody next to the bottom said, no. It was just no. There was nothing else that just no, it doesn't. I had to laugh just a little bit at that because I understand that could be a sort of frustration for some people. Now, here are dreams about the future of the church. This is all from you. This is what you folks did. This isn't me. I did pull some of this together and synthesize it, but it is definitely it's Walker through and through. Here you go. So what's your dream? Your dream is community. Do you know that word community keeps coming up in everything? It's really important. Finances. People want the finances to be better. You haven't done a stewardship program in 4 years. How can your finances be good if you haven't done a good stewardship program? And encourage people to be generous and teach that. That was my job at Hennepin Avenue United Methodist Church. And I've done lots of that kind of work across the conference. So, the dream is for things to be financially secure. We want to have a legacy. There's 3 things I want to read that's really funny here to me. One is, about 2/3 of the way down, give more ownership to running the church to New City and become a renter, retaining someone as a ritual person with sermons and membership. We don't need a minister. Then a little farther down, it says, get a full-time minister. And then the next to the last one is at least a half-time minister. So clearly there are a variety of opinions about what kind of leadership the congregation needs. It just made me giggle when I read those, but I had to include them because those were very real things.
What page was that on? Were you reading?
Now, you can, incidentally, this is available by email. And all you have to do is email the church office and they'll forward it to you, or if you email me, I'll give you I've got my contact, I'll be glad to send it out to you. This is really valid and important stuff because it talks a lot about what you believe about your church and what's important. Okay, we're going to do a report and feedback session. We'll start with this table here. We're going to go all the way around. I'm going to write down any very significant learning we have here. Oh, what?
We forgot to ask someone to report.
Well, that's, I'll let you figure that out and we'll start over here then, go around. And we need to have a microphone. The microphone's going to be handed to you and you'll report. Here comes the microphone. All right, what, going through this process, what did you
So Joe was saying he was attracted to the idea of a fellowship. We all had questions about the effect of disaffiliation on pensions and apportionments, and whether we would owe on the pensions and the apportionments. Kent questioned if we should choose disaffiliation, could we pay the obligations? And I had questions, and others had questions about whether we can use existing cash to pay the obligations. And Casey probably knows this. At one point, we had about $140K that was remained from the old parsonage sale, and we had about $40K from the Tom Manley estate. Do we still have that?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, we're not impoverished in that sense. We have these resources, but can they be used to meet obligations for the various options? And we need to know that, I think. Steve questioned if New City paying $1,000 a month in expenses, when we're paying $1,000 a month in rent when expenses are over $3,000 a month. Question of whether it makes sense for New City to so to speak, take over. Steve was saying he leans towards fellowship and sharing with New City. I just had lots of questions and saying, can we use the old parsonage money for operating? And if we go fellowship, must we pay the pension liability and the apportionments? And Casey, do you know how much the past apportionments are?
No, we're not going to get into that kind of detail now. We'll deal with that later. We're just getting So yours were basically financial questions.
Yeah, that's
it. Okay, understood. Then we'll go to this next table here. Who did the writing? Nobody did the writing?
We're just floating around here.
You're floating around? That's never happened at Walker before. Oh, yeah.
I'll say, we got pretty much hung up on,
Hold the microphone right in front of your mouth, please.
where's the chart? What are our choices?
Well, Brian was here, he probably say, give us a choice.
Fellowship, somebody help me.
Now, everybody else be ready, because I'm coming around.
All right, here, we got all hung up on continued as a Charter United Methodist Church.
And that's what people wanted? Is that
That's what we talked about.
Okay.
We have really come to a consensus.
Okay, but that's the piece you talked about. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
That was us.
All right. So I'm going to go up and write Charter Church, and I'll do that. Go ahead. Next, please.
Okay, we decided that the status quo is the best option because it gives us time. And the status quo is continue as a chartered United Methodist Church. Initially, fellowship was an attractive option, but if we go to fellowship, we lose ownership of the church. We can't sell it and keep the profits. One thing that probably not a lot of people know is that we owe Christine Smith $250,000. Well, she's not going to call in the loan immediately. She wants it to be paid back, and if we can't sell the church and keep the profits, we can't do that. So we thought the status quo was the best. We don't want to disaffiliate. We don't want to disband. So those two options, as far as we're concerned, are poor options.
Okay.
Someone mentioned the fact that in the statement about fellowship, the word typically was used, and since we don't know if there are exceptions or not, we thought that was not very clear and hard to make decisions that way.
Thank you. And I saw you diligently writing.
Okay, all five of us had continue as a chartered United Methodist Church as our first choice, and all five of us said.
Do you mind taking your mask off, because I'm having a hard time.
Okay, all five of us thought that continuing as a chartered United Methodist Church was our first choice. None of us wanted to discontinue or disaffiliate. Some of us said, well, it could be a fellowship, so that was a sort of a weak second choice on the part of a few of us. And we talked about various details too, paying down the $250,000 if possible, and we can't pay it all at once, but to start whittling away at that, tighten our belts. There was finances and membership are both big deals for us. We need to get new members. Getting new members is essential. Outreach is needed. We need to grow as a church. The lay leadership was praised. Good lay leadership and good activities here. And there was a long conversation about continuing with people in the neighborhood and trying to bring people into the church who do not look like us, people who are not necessarily white, middle-aged, primarily cis people, and like attracting people of color, people of LGBT people more so. So that's where we came down.
Thank you. Who's reporter here?
What did you decide to do, a popcorn? I think so, because we have so many different approaches. Nancy? Yeah.
I just continued to ask the question about the brevity of this process right now, and is there, in my belief, that we need more time? Sounds like some other groups were kind of being creative as like, let's choose option one as a potential way to buy more time. I'm not sure if that's what you meant, but maybe that's something to do. So that's, I just voiced that concern strongly, and the confusion of why now type of thing. How is the finances, like, you know, and then we heard that the breakup of our office was a kind of a big red flag to like, we gotta do something here. So, are you guys?
Anybody else gonna say something?
Well, I think going strategically with continuous charter does allow us more
Have the
time.
mic
Hold the
up.
mic up.
Oh, right in front of your mouth, yeah.
Does allow us more time, and if it feels quite unfinished, then that seems like a very fine rank choice, although that isn't.
Don't move the mic.
Oh, that isn't what we concluded. No.
And I guess my position is, this is not the last decision we're going to make. This is the first decision we're going to make. And it's a way for us to try to focus on what we all want, so that those of us who are trying to do what we all want know what that is.
Excellent. You have one more comment, because we're going to move to our balloting here in a couple minutes. I need to describe it in detail. We're still at this table?
Oh, I know that. Sorry.
Did you guys report? No.
No, I thought you asked for one more comment. But
No. We're not doing it that way. We're going table to table, and the person who recorded was going to do the turn. Go ahead.
I think we got stalled here because of confusion of the process. But if it were me making what choice would I endorse for us to focus on, it would be continued as a chartered church.
David, you didn't write, most of us at this table said we're in favor of the fellowship, and you didn't put that down.
Did I hear that from you?
Yeah.
No. I don't remember. I did not hear it. If I had heard the word fellowship, I would have written it down.
We did.
I'll do it now. Okay.
That's fine. Well, it seems like it's
You know,
a
the good
big
news is-
vote here, so I.
The good news is, we can add stuff. It's okay.
I want you to
This
know.
is not a closed process. This is not a, like, we're not gonna strap you in and you're gonna go right to the end. It's not gonna happen. You're all part of this. I'm gonna put fellowship in.
It's not that, made it really hard for us to hear you. I think we might be able to be really creative. And craft,
So,
you know, what we want.
Do we need to hear from the people
Yeah,
on
this
Zoom?
would like.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing. What?
I'm
The online people have a question or a comment?
trying to have a Zoom call in,
Yes?
and so I think they're gonna call my phone.
I can't, folks, don't be talking right now. Just be quiet.
A couple of my phone and the mic so the Zoom group can.
The Zoom group is gonna share. Thank you. Let's.
And can we hear who's on the Zoom? The names of the people that are sharing.
Henry, Tony, Cheryl, Bonnie, Barbara Hager, Benita. And Rhonda.
Are you talking?
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, everybody. I'm calling from Washington State. My group would be discussed. Well, one moment. I have to fix my headphones so I don't hear myself talking. My group discussed a few of the different options fairly thoroughly. I think for this group, we discussed the option fellowship sort of the most thoroughly. I think that's sort of where our group was leaning toward. We had some questions about if walk group becomes a fellowship, how our outstanding debts are handled, and if we become a fellowship, do we still need to pay pension liability and those other things? That was one concern of ours that we wanted some clarity on. But other than that, that was sort of our general where we were looking toward. There was also some, speaking of discontinuing as another option. And I don't know if, Tony, were you in the other group, or Bonnie, I don't know if you would want to speak for the other group, but I will send Andy's phone number in the chat so that you can call him to the room.
I didn't catch that, I'm sorry.
He's trying to figure out, because there were two rooms, sitting on the Zoom chatting, so he's trying to see if the other one wants to call, but we don't
Okay.
know yet. I'll let you know.
All right. Okay. Now, I'm going to explain the balloting, because that's the final thing we're doing here.
We rank choice?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. that's-
Yeah.
So we get choice, we get like number one.
He's
number
gonna
two.
explain it.
An overwhelming majority. Wasn't it like equal? Bravo, what does that mean? Overwhelming majority.
Does somebody have the ballots? Andy, have you seen the ballots?
Who's got the ballot?
My pants ran off.
Did we bring the ballots?
Only a vote is like this.
Where did the box go? The box is over there.
Show of hands.
Hands down.
All for one and one for all.
It's okay to have fun, ain't it?
I got a ballot. I don't see that. The steel. That's what you're gonna do. Did anybody accidentally fill out the ballot?
Nope.
Nobody stuck in the ballot box.
Yeah, don't let Trump in the room. This is not an election.
Probably already filled out in the ballot.
I'm gonna make copies right now. Okay, while they're throwing them around.
I did not see them, sorry, and I've gone through everything.
We're gonna have the other Zoom group talk quickly.
Very good.
I'll be right back. Your vote, we show and vote.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, we can hear you.
Okay, this is Bonnie, and what I want to share is that the small group I was in supports the idea of fellowship. And the implication for us is that we would be less stressed by having less debt, that hopefully the United Methodist Church can take on our huge debt, like to Christine. And I don't know if that's true or not. And I think for years and years we've talked about how to turn this into something where a lot of people are drawn, a lot more people are drawn to participate at Walker. And I am in favor of loving us as we are and what we are, and not imagining that we're going to be putting a ton of energy that I don't think we have into turning us into a much larger United Methodist Church. So we're in favor of the fellowship option.
Okay. That's been recorded and marked on the thing. We've got 3 groups that talked about fellowship. We have 4 groups that talked about charter church. So we're going to get the ballots. I don't know what happened to them. They haven't shown up anywhere else. Huh?
I'd like
Just do a show of hands.
She's copying something.
So there.
No. Without a microphone. You need a microphone.
I have to get on the microphone?
No, yes, you do. Absolutely. Sorry.
Well, I'm just going to go back and refer to this one line. It says relocated to fellowship and relinquished building ownership because there are no longer charter church subject to trust clauses. And so where's the line where it says typically? Oh, okay, fellowships typically relinquish the building. And I think
if the congregation had lots of money and could pay all those other things, they could keep the building, I expect.
Well, the option that we're considering here, one, if we stay as a charter Methodist church and the building were sold, that would absorb the debt that we owe Christine Smith. Because I don't understand how, we can't just go on with the delusion that somehow the main body, UMC, is going to help us unless we ask or we put a proposal.
Yeah.
So it's only reasonable to consider that until we get something solid in writing. I mean, we have too many.
And as I said, we're going to have a meeting about the status of the building, and we'll have the district superintendent here to explain all of those details. I think what you're doing is several people are grabbing onto the word typically and trying to parse it. It isn't worth the effort right now.
I believe you made a point though. More wealthier churches, a base, including the amount of energy that many of us can actually afford. I mean, some of us would like to, I'm sure of it. But, saying it and doing it is
okay. I'm going to cut off all discussion at this point. We're about to vote, and I'm going to explain the vote to you. Can I have a copy of the ballot, please? Maybe my original one. Okay, so let me explain the ballot. There's ranked choice voting on this. Howard, Mr. Musician, is going to help me add this up afterward. Not now. You're going to do a thing, Howard. Stay right there if you're comfortable. Ranked choice voting is the way to give people the most say in what they want to have happen. And as a person who ran in regular races in Duluth twice and 3 ranked choice races here in Minneapolis, I won all 3 of them. By the way, I got elected. I really believe it works very, very well. And let me explain this ballot. I'm going to go right through it from the top to the bottom. And our friends online actually have a ballot also that they're going to be casting their votes too. So we're going to be hearing from those, 15 people or 14 or whatever it is. Your first choice, whatever your first choice is, mark that on the top. Continue as a UM church, continue as a fellowship, discontinue, disaffiliate. You mark the first ballot for that. The second choice, it can't be the same as your first choice. It cannot be the same. It has to be different. Because if you actually do it, you're going to lose. The ballot, the second vote won't work. If you have a third choice, and you don't have to make 3 choices, by the way, you can choose. I don't recommend bullet voting ever, by the way, just to vote for one. I think you're always smart to vote for at least 2, and you have the most power if you vote for 3. So the third choice has to be different than your first or second choice. Is that part clear for people?
Yep.
Are there any questions about how that particular stuff works? Yes.
But you do not have to have 3 choices.
No, you do not have to have 3 choices.
So it's not really wise to put down the third choice that you really don't want.
I would agree with you. That is a very good point. If you have just 2 choices, if you can live with 2 of them, rank them. That's important.
Yeah.
You don't have to have that third vote unless you feel strongly about a third option. Even though it's down 3. Yes, that's a good point. Another question. Yes.
You haven't said about a pastor from the church or the fellowship?
I'm sorry, I'm missing this.
Haven't heard anything about.
Could you take your mask off so I can hear?
Haven't heard anything about the pastor. Who would be the pastor? Where do they come from? And
have I heard anything about it?
Well, and I haven't heard anything about the U of M or the fellowship. Like, we just had 8 months with no pastor.
Yep.
Are we gonna have another 8 months, or just like, where would the pastor be?
It's my understanding that they're somebody that they think would be good.
That the UM thing.
What does that go with? So what she said is
No, that was it, outside of this question here, but we're talking about clergy leadership next time, whether it's a clergy person, lay person, whatever. The decision now is whether you want to remain as a United Methodist Church, whether you want to become a fellowship, whether you want to disband, or you want to disassociate. Those are the only options for this vote.
The fellowship or the charter, you could each have the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Pastor, how binding is this vote?
How binding is it? It's going to be considered along with all the other votes that we receive. Nothing is locked until there is a final decision by church council.
Thank you.
Okay. Once you have balloted, Howard, would you be willing to pick up the ballots, please? And incidentally, I have no vote. You are the ones that have the vote.
We'll give
I'm going to see you Friday.
Select at your table, please. Have one person. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
I had that same thought.
Okay.
Diversified, so already all out.
Have we got the vote from the online people yet? Excuse me. Okay. Just a second, please. Has everybody received all the ballots? Wait a minute. Has everybody cast their ballot here? Everybody have? Howard's got them all? We're waiting to get the ones online. Oh, there's another. Is that another ballot?
No, Steve, were you here? Did you vote?
Steve is.
He just walked in.
No, you can't. You have to have been part of the process in this meeting or online. We're not allowing people to walk in.
But he can come next week. There are other meetings.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got stuff happening most weeks between now and the end of the month. Yeah, no, it's no problem. Okay, everybody has voted. We're waiting to get the online votes. Folks, thank you.
Thank you.
Let me say a few words. Could I have everybody's attention for just a moment, please? This is not super easy, but it's super important. And you all have the ability to help fashion what's going to happen from here forward. Invite your friends, invite your colleagues, invite other church members, people who participate here. Everybody who participates in these has a voice, and has an ability to help shape final decisions. And just so you know, it's not going to be like lockdown and done in 6 weeks. It's probably going to be lockdown and done in about 2 years.
Yeah.
The thing is that we're going to set a path and a direction, and people will be moving towards making some great decisions. I want to say a final blessing, yes?
This is a sheet to sign up for doing a devotion for the next 4 meetings, or there's 2 places to do music for the next meeting.
For do that, thank you. And now as we go forth from this time together, let us go forth in the knowledge that we are loved, we are valued, that we are part of a community that is making a difference in this community, that we're called to be in service and in love and in fellowship. Go in peace. Amen.
I will help clean up what I clean up. Does anybody else sign up to do a devotion? Where should I leave this? Maybe we pass it out on Sunday.
I guess I don't have my chair away now.